Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining from, and welcome to day two of the Power BI Project Marathon. I'm super excited to have you join me, and I'm super excited to continue the session. I can tell you that we had an explosive session yesterday, and it was indeed a marathon. In between the class, I was wondering if we'd be able to actually pull it, but I'm actually very, very happy that we were able to do that. So please, if you can hear me, what I want you to do for me is just give me a reaction in the comments, or you can just try to do a mini introduction in the comments. Maybe just say your name and your location, so I can confirm that you can hear me. So by the way, my name is Tina Okonkwo, and I'm joining from Lagos, Nigeria. So I want to be sure everybody can hear me clearly. If you can hear me clearly, drop a reaction. Oh, thank you very much. I can see some love emojis. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to be starting shortly. Oh, look at my namesake. There's my namesake in the comment section, Rita. That's my name too. My name is Rita Tina. So we're going to start the session almost immediately because I want us to be able to cover a lot. So you can just drop a message in the WhatsApp group, or if you know any of your friends that are not on the call now, just tell them that the session is live and the session has started. You can share the link with them, maybe your communities, anywhere you feel like people would actually benefit from this session. Please share it with them. And as usual, we're just going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. Remember, and how that's going to happen is I'm just going to do a brief recap of what I spoke about yesterday. And yesterday, I was able to we started the session by talking about how to start building a dashboard, right? What a dashboard. Look at what a dashboard is, how you should go about building your dashboard from your planning phase down to your publishing phase. We talked about all of that yesterday, and we were able to start looking at our first case study, and today we're going to complete that case study. I think we're able to look at the publishing of that. We were able to look at the modeling yesterday, right? We did a little bit of transformation on that data, and we did modeling on that data, and we started writing DAX, and I think that is where it got complicated because a lot of people got lost. And today I'm going to be following a different approach. I'll still make it very easy and beginner friendly. I want to try to make it more easy and beginner friendly, but I still want us to move at a very, very good pace because I'm hoping that we'll be able to complete that project today. And yes, thank you. I'm on 1K subscribers. Woo! I should be doing a drum rolls or what's that? Those reaction. So thank you very much. You don't know how excited I am, and this means a lot that I have 1K subscriber. I wrote to 2K actually. So please, if you're yet to subscribe, please do me the honors. Just do me the favor of trying to subscribe. It won't cost you anything. Trust me, I'm going to be posting a lot of amazing content in the next couple of days, but I'm really appreciative. I mean, this is a channel I started just last week, and part of the reason why I started this channel was because I wanted to share most of the things. I know the struggles of beginners. I know how it feels like to be lost. I know how it feels like to be confused. I know how it feels like to not have anybody to hold your hand and tell you this is what we do. And I've had a lot of meetings or sessions, speaking engagements where I tell people, build projects, build business problems projects. But so most times when they go back to build that project and come back, it is not exactly what I had said or how I had meant it. That's what they end up doing. So which is why I decided to create this channel, because I want to help a lot of beginners to actually start a career in transition smoothly rather in this career path. And I'm really hoping that we can build something amazing together. If you're yet to be part of the WhatsApp group, please just request for the link in the comment section. I'll get somebody to post it shortly, or somebody in the group that already has access to the second WhatsApp group. Please, you can just share the link in the comment section so other persons can be a part of that community. Okay, there were a couple of questions in the question group on the WhatsApp community. Most of those questions, please permit me, I would be answering them probably during the week or after the Power BI bootcamp, because I've not had enough time to actually go through my phone and go through them. But be rest assured I'm going to answer all the questions. Okay, so you can just keep dropping them there, keep dropping this, and I would love to provide support to as many persons as I can. Okay, well, we're going to go right into today's session, and we're going to start from where we stopped. And something I'm going to try to do, I'll do a brief recap, right, of the project, so that in case maybe somebody that did not join yesterday and is joining us for the very first time today can also understand what we are trying to do. But I'm super excited, and I hope you are today, and I hope you are too. So get ready for another round of marathon analysis. So we're going to be, it's really a marathon because come on, 4 hours. Give yourself credit, give yourself kudos, because you guys did amazing up until the end of the session. I still had about, I think at 3 hours I had about 300 persons on the call. Man, that's huge. 300 persons willing to learn and build their own project, so it's amazing. And at the end of the call, I think we had over 120 or 150. I can't really remember. But yesterday we had over 3,000 views on that video. So 3,000 person actually viewed the, like, it's amazing. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody for engaging and for sticking with me on this journey. So we're going to go right into it. I don't know how many persons I have on the call now. I'm trying to see if we can get the number up. I don't think we're up to 100 yet. We're just 54. I want to make sure we're up to 100. So please share this link. You can share it in your WhatsApp, in your groups, share it online, share the link everywhere. Let's get people to join the call and come and learn how to build their first project. Okay, so I want us to get to at least 100 persons before we start this session. Can everybody hear me? Can everyone hear me? Please, if you can hear me correct, just give a thumbs up or a reaction, or leave a message in the chat. I can see in the chat box, someone is saying the live ended suddenly, but I can still see that I'm live. So please confirm I'm still live. Okay, thank you very much, Muhammad, for that confirmation. Okay, beautiful. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do a brief recap. But before I want to do a brief recap of the project we're working on, I attended a space. I was actually a co-host for that space, a Twitter space yesterday, and the host mentioned something. The speaker is actually a very experienced data analyst and one of my mentors. He has over 7 years experience as a data analyst and a business intelligence professional. So he mentioned something, and what he said was, if you're working, there's something he mentioned that I really, really liked, and I was actually very proud and sort of like happy about, because that is what we're trying to do in the Power BI Project Marathon. He mentioned something that if you're working on a project as a data analyst, especially as a beginner, right? I always talk about problem solving, but yeah, it was so direct. He said, if you are working on projects as a beginner, right? If your project doesn't do these 3 things, then you have not done a good project, or you have not done something solid. And here are the 3 things he mentioned. Number 1, increase revenue. So if you are not doing a project that will sort of increase revenue for an organization, you have not, that is one thing, that you have missed out on one, or that is one thing that you should look out for when you're working on projects. Number 2, reduce cost. So it's either you're trying to increase revenue or you're trying to reduce cost for that organization. And number 3, right, is increase process efficiency. I think he mentioned something again, like increase, make customers satisfied, or like something in that aspect. And these are the things I aim to achieve with the Power BI Project Club, the Power BI Project Marathon. I always tell people that work on business focused projects, and these are the kind of things, right, that you should be focused on when you're doing business focused projects. Work on projects that would either increase revenue, reduce cost, or increase process efficiency. Another that would bring me to our projects that we're currently working on. Now, when we started this project, I asked what the objective for this project was, right? And a lot of persons gave very good and beautiful answer. And in fact, one of the answers that actually stood out for me during the answers were or was the fact that this is a was the fact was the fact that we are doing a project to actually help a company reduce downtime. Okay, so the next thing we're going to looking at just that particular thing, right? I went back looking at our business objective again, right? One thing I want you to always note as a data analyst, or when you're working on a project, especially one that comes with a brief, I always want you to look at the requirements or the objectives of that analysis from the client's point of view. Okay, I want us to look at it from the client's point of view. I hope we are all following. Please still confirm if I'm audible. Okay, I'm audible. All right. So basically, what we're trying to it's very important when you're working on an analysis like this, or you're working on an analysis that, especially if it comes with a brief, always try to look at the problem from the client's point of view or from the organization's point of view. For example, the data we're trying to work with, or what we're trying to do here, right? The brief that came says they're a manufacturing company, and they are trying to look at their data to sort of analyze the data and find out if there are any thing that should be taken into consideration, because they are trying to make supplier quality a priority. So they want to find out what suppliers are supplying them with with quality goods, or those that are not supplying them, right? And something that I mentioned yesterday, or the way I summarize this, is that the company wants to start monitoring the performance and the quality of the goods that are being sent to them. They do not have a procurement system in place, so they don't have all the data, but they don't want to lose time, right? Because they want all the insights that would help them, and they want all the insights that will help them monitor this activity. Please, I need to know that I'm still audible. Am I audible? Please let me know if you can hear me. I'm still live, so please, if you can check, just refresh. I don't know why people keep saying it's out. Is there anybody? Is it out on any other person? Is it out for any other person? Is it out for any other person? If it's not, please, when somebody drops a message that it's out, please just drop a message that you can hear me clearly, so I know it's not from my end. Okay, so please, just if you are having internet issues, if you can't hear me, try to just refresh your screen. Thank you very much. All right, we are going to proceed. So just like I was saying, it would be good for me to have a clear, because most times my train of thoughts are broken. Okay. I'm still on. I'm just trying to get some things sorted out on this end. Okay, all right. So let's proceed, okay? Now we want to sort of look. Yes, that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to recap the last 45 minutes of yesterday's session, okay? I don't know why advertisements are coming up, but my channel is not monetized, so I don't know why advertisements would be coming up. Okay, so I was trying to explain Oh, I'm trying to actually explain something. So, like I was saying, well, I'm trying to recap like the problem statements we're trying to solve, right? Like I was saying, how I was able to summarize the case study was I looked at it from the client's point of view, and I just looked at it that okay, the company wants to start monitoring the performance and quality of their goods, but they don't have a procurement system in place. They don't have all the data, but they don't want to wait because they don't want to lose time. And they are also looking for all the insights that might be helpful to sort of monitor this activity, right? Now, what does this mean? It means that these defects products that they are collecting is affecting their production, right? It's affecting their production time, because I mentioned something that if there's a bad good or there's something that's not of good quality that was sent to the organization, there will be like a pause in the production. So now that is making them to lose time. So then what? You can already think that you can think of it that time is valuable, right? So you can also think of it that time is money. So meaning that they are losing money, right? They are losing money with all those things that is happening. So basically what we are going to try to do in this report, or what we are trying to do in this report, we are trying to help this company reduce cost or save costs, right? So we don't want them to spend a lot of money on that, on doing all the getting bad quality goods from bad vendors and all those things, right? Now that we know that this is the focus of our, or this objective of our analysis, which is to reduce costs, right? To reduce downtime and to actually save costs, right? That would now make like the entire part of our story, right? So the purpose of this report now is to actually show how much money they are losing because of the defect quality, right? And also sort of like show those vendors that are making them lose those kind of those money. Actually, that is what we're basically doing. So yesterday we got this data, and the way the data came in, I'm going to open up my Power Query editor again because there's something I need to do here too. So the way this data came in, it came in with this large table, right? We had a large table here. It's coming up, so you should see that shortly. So we had a large table that contained a lot of dimensions, and we had a lot of metrics. Now, one of the questions I saw on the WhatsApp community was, how do we know which data to do? How do we know which data to do dimensions, and how do we know which one to use to not use as dimensions? Now that is where data modeling comes into play. Now data modeling is just you splitting your table into facts and dimension tables, and when you're splitting your table into facts and dimension table, your facts table contains your main business events, which is like your transactional date and time, your sales, your quantity, information that are mostly numerical, and also describe that are also your business events, right? That quantifies that, and it's also repetitive. That is your fact table. Your dimension table contains descriptions about your facts table. So an example would be like your customer table that will contain customer information, and most times they are always they are likely text based, right? And they contain only unique values. Now when creating your dimension tables, what do? You use sort of like find relationships in your data, and all those data that has relationships, you throw them in one bucket. For example, if I add a table that contains customer ID, customer name, customer segment, and I add a product ID, product name, product category and subcategory in that same data, I would likely create a dimension table where I'm throwing in my customer ID, customer name, and customer segment, because they are related, right? Think of it like this: when you have you as a person, you have a wardrobe, or even if you don't have a wardrobe, right? Like there's a way you organize your clothing, right? Probably you put your inner wears in one place, you put your suits in one place, your shirts another place, your ties one place, your socks one place, right? And when you want to, like, you just organize them. See data modeling that way. So data modeling, you're just organizing this into smaller tables, different tables, such that when you need that particular outfit, you will go there and pick what you want, right? It makes it organized for you, so you don't need to be scattered. For example, imagine you add all those things in one place. If you need a tie, you would imagine how many clothes you would have to scatter and skim through before you'd have to pick a tie. You'll probably not even see the tie you are looking for. Maybe you just have to go with any tie like that you see, because it's so hard to look for maybe one of your favorite tie, because it's scattered. They are not in the same place, right? That is what data modeling is all about. Data modeling is helping you organize your tables in a way that you have related objects in a particular bucket. So when it comes to building your data model, for example, if in this data I add like I had vendor ID and maybe a vendor category or vendor segment, I would likely put the three of them in one particular table, right? Because they are related. That is how it works. Okay, so we were able to build a data model for this particular data, and what we did was, after building this data model, we created a new table where we sort of merged, we did indexing for our dimension tables, right? Added dimensions, and we created our supplier facts table. Now, one last thing we didn't do in this table was take out all these things, because we don't need them again. It's redundant, right? So something you can just do is to come to your choose column tab over here, right? And just do choose columns, and then what you want to remove. And what you want to remove is, you want to remove this vendor, plant location, category, material type, in fact, all the dimensions you created, you are removing it, and you want to leave only the keys. And all you just need to do is click on OK. After doing that, you now want to close and apply, right? So when we closed our data and applied our data, we then came to our modeling view. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes for that to actually load. Okay, beautiful. Now our data is loaded. Now that our data is loaded, the next thing we're going to do is the next thing we're going to do, I turned off my laptop. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do now is, or the next thing we did yesterday was, we went to our modeling view. Okay. That is what we did. We went to our modeling view. Okay, the reason why we are moving the dimensions table, or the dimensions in that our original table, is because the whole idea of trying to build a facts table and a dimension table is to reduce redundancy, right? We already have that information in our dimension table, so we don't need to have them again in our facts table, since we already have like keys, foreign keys, right, that we can connect, which is what we did here in our data modeling view. You can see that. I'm going to try to reduce this a bit, so that you can see it very well. Good. Now this is what we tried to do. Okay, we built a data model where we connected our table together using primary key to foreign key. You can see, if I put my cursor here, you just see what they are connected on, and that is what we were able to do yesterday. And after that, we now went into creating our measures, right? And to start creating your measures, it's very important to create a measures table. And here's why I like creating a measures table, and even separate measures table for separate metrics. I think somebody was asking me what's the difference between dimensions and metrics. So no, the question was, how do we know what measures to create? Now here's what I always like to do, or here's my approach, right? And you can always borrow my approach. When you get data, right, I always first of all try to look at what the metrics in the data are and what the dimension. And yesterday I mentioned that your metrics are sort of like your value fields. Let me be on my data field so that you'd be able to sort of see what I'm explaining. Beautiful. Now I mentioned that your metrics are your value fields and your value fields, and most of those fields that are transactional, like they are transactional, that is what your value fields, or that's what your metrics are in your data. So when you hear somebody mention, oh, I just have 2 metrics in my data, that is what they are talking about. Now this is a beautiful fact table, because your fact table most times contains mainly numerical things, right? And your dimension table will contain text-based data. Now, majorly looking at this, you can see we have just 2 metrics. And what are our 2 metrics? The defect quantity and the downtime minutes. Think of it as those columns on your data that you can perform calculations on. Okay? Now, I'm going to be following a different route for today's class. I'm not going to be taking all the questions in the chat, okay? I would probably take that probably after the class, or that's why I created a dedicated questions channel that everybody can drop their questions there so that we can move very, very fast, okay? So I'll just continue, and I'll just keep explaining while we'll just keep progressing for the class. All right, so now we were able to model this data, and we started creating our DAX. And I said something that if you want to know what DAX to create, the first thing you want to think about is your metrics, the metrics in your data. What metrics? Now, when you have those metrics, then you now want to start with basic measures. Basic measures like the sum of your metrics, the average of your metrics, right? Those are some of the things you might want to look. And yesterday, we were able to start with defect quantity, calculating the defect. Now, this sum that I mentioned are what we call basic, your base measures, such that you can reference them in other measures, or you are going to be referencing them a lot of times in other measures. Those are your base measures. So, what the next thing we want to do is we are going to continue from where we stopped. But first thing, what we're able to do yesterday, and I want to follow a different direction, just like I mentioned. Would finish one aspect before moving to another aspect, so that if we're not able to complete, we should be able to complete at least even one dashboard. That is the most important thing, even if we cannot do both. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is we did a couple of calculations for our defect quantity, and we started with our total defect quantity, right? And I were able to calculate that, which is just the sum of our fact table field. That is what you can see here, right? Sum of our total defect quantity coming from our facts table. Then another thing we calculated was the total defect quantity last year, and this is what we arrived at, right? This is what we did. Now, the next thing we were able to do is to do a year-over-year growth. We calculated the previous month's value, and we also calculated the current month's value, right? Now, the next thing we're going to do in this defect quantity, because I want to try to complete, I want to move at a great speed now. We're going to be completing at least one so that we can be visualizing as we are analyzing. So I don't want to wait till we are done analyzing before we visualize. So we're going to be doing them concurrently, okay? In most cases, sometimes you would also be visualizing as you are analyzing. In some cases, you actually will need to analyze finish before you visualize. Okay. So the next thing I want to do in this place, I'm going to sort of bring down my total this thing on a card visual, because like I mentioned, I want to be analyzing and I want to be visualizing. In case this is your first time of joining this session, I want to sort of give you a brief overview of what we're trying to recreate, right? This is the report that we are trying to recreate, and it's just a supplier quality and performance dashboard, okay? So we're trying to recreate what you are seeing on my screen currently. What you're seeing on my screen currently, and we're going to start with this page. How did I arrive at this page? So we're going to do all those calculations that we have here. So we're starting with this chart we'll move to the next chart, we'll move to the next chart, because I want us to be as fast as possible. I hope this is a good route, and I hope we are all comfortable with this, but I'm going to try to explain most of the calculations. Okay, so the first thing that I have on this visual is my total defect, right? And I mentioned something that when you are analyzing data, right, because I'm teaching you so that, because you might pick another data and want to do it, you will not have something like this to listen. When you want to analyze a report, first of all, you want to go online and browse to see if there are sample reports of that report you're trying to analyze, right? And check out those reports. What are the KPIs? What are those information people add on those reports that people would like to see, that your audience would like to see? And in this supplier quality performance report, some of the things I saw was like the total defects, defect rates, the downtime in hours. I also saw some like downtime impact and so many other KPIs like that. But because of the kind of data I have, because sometimes you will see some things, but you won't be able to calculate those metrics because you don't have enough data to do that. Okay, please, if you are still following, just drop a reaction in the comment section. Thank you very much. So we're now going to start with the first one, and the first one is our total defect quantity that we calculated. So I'm just going to check this box to place that here, and because I still want to see, I don't want to just see a summary, right, like it's been abbreviated or summarized. I want to see two decimal places. I want to visualize in 2 decimal places. Most time when I have huge number like this, I like to visualize in 2 decimal places. If the number were in thousands, I might probably just show only the figure, but because this is a very large number, and if I try to sort of change the call out value to display it as none, it's just going to be a very large number, and it's going to take up my screen, and it might be too difficult even for my stakeholders to sort of take in, right? So what I want to do is, rather than that, I'm going to leave it as millions, and I would change the as billions, and I will change the decimal number, or maybe leave it as auto that it is, and just change the decimal number from auto to 2. Okay, now we have the first thing, which is the decimal, which is the total defect quantity, right? We can go ahead with the editing, or I can just go ahead and edit now. I can still format later on. But something I always like to do is, most times, rather than have my title on this place, I like to have them above, because I feel like it's cleaner and you can easily see what you're looking at immediately, right? Because imagine them looking at the numbers before my title. Sometimes they might not understand what the number they're about. By the time they say, okay, defect, they're interested in defect, so they're looking at the number and they're focusing on that. So that does not mean this like putting it on that is bad. This is just a personal preference, right? And I'm telling you why I like to put it on top. So I'm just going to turn on the title for my report. First of all, I need to turn off this category label, right? And then I will go to my general, and then I'm going to call this my defects, right? And then I might just increase this a bit. And one of my favorite and go-to fonts when I'm working in Power BI is Shego UI, and I'm just going to click on Shego UI. Okay, and I don't want it positioned by the end of my report. I want it in the middle, so I'm just going to click in the middle. Another thing you need to pay attention to that most people tend to miss out on is, if you're analyzing data, you want to make sure that whatever you're using is uniform. So if you're using one font size, use that font size across. If you want to sort of like make something bold, make it bold across. Okay, you don't want to, like, say for example, I'm putting another chart here, I'll make this one lighter, I'll make the other one, because your colors, fonts, and formatting also tells a story. It's part of your communication in your data. So you need to pay attention to all this. It's not just about analyzing the data and throwing in a bunch of charts on your report. You want to make sure that all of the formatting you're doing on your report are consistent. Consistency matters. So I'm going to change my call out value font from that same default DIN to the Shego UI. Okay, and then I'm just going to leave that. I can always format it if I want to increase the size, because obviously I just want to have all the visuals for my page 1. I can always come back to do editing or whatever I want to do, right? Now, the second thing I want to do, some persons might not agree with me with doing that. They might tell me to use the new card, but I don't know why. I've just been very, very used to it. I'm still going to use the new card visual in Power BI though at some point, but I'm already very used to using that part to visualize my trends, right? Now we have our defects. Something I want to be able to put here. If you look at this chart here, remember we're trying to recreate this. If I look at this chart, I have my last month and I have my last year, right? So that is what I want to add this thing now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my visual, okay? I'm going to go there, and the first thing we want to calculate is I want to be able to calculate this icon. I'm going to teach you now how to do this icon in Power BI. So if you've never done that before, we're going to learn that. And the reason why we're adding those kind of icon is to add context to our data, such that when the key stakeholder or whoever that is going to be using our report just looks at it, they can see that, oh, we are actually making, like, we are regressing or we are progressing, okay? Now, to do that, we're going to create what we call an icon in Power BI. We're going to write a DAX to actually do that calculation. Okay. So now let's start with the month over month trend icon. Remember, I said most people are still asking me about where the DAX codes are. I said something about it being in our drive. Okay, it's been in our drive. So I'm going to open up that drive again and just show you what you need to do. And for those that are looking for the slides for yesterday's session, it's already in the drive. You'll see it. This is it. This PDF file you have here, Power BI Project Marathon 1. Then for our supplier insights, if you want the DAX, all the DAX I'm writing for this thing, all I need you to do is come to this supply quality and performance dashboard template. Come here, that has these three icons, and download. Once you download, you'll be able to see a file that looks like this. There is a PBIX file that looks like this. So it just contains all the calculation I'm going to be writing for the whole session of this class without the visuals. That is what is there. I'm not sharing the visuals because if I share that, most people will not do this thing. They'll just go and export that one and tell you that, or do copy and paste, or maybe format and tell you the beauties. That's why, but I've done the hardest work, which is writing down the DAX, but you have to recreate the visual. Okay, so if you want to just copy and paste, you can come here and just highlight on a DAX, for example. If I highlight this one, I can see it here. I can do my Control A, Control V, and go and copy it in my own report. Okay, I'm going to copy it in my own report. So now the next thing that we want to actually do is to go to our I'm going to go back to my Power BI desktop, and we're just going to continue the session. Okay, so and we're just going to continue the session. Now that we are here, we want to calculate this trend icon, right? Which we have here. And to calculate this trend icon, we make use of a function called unichar or unichar. So I'm going to just go over and start writing that DAX. I know a lot of people, when I start writing DAX, everyone will like, hey. Somebody said the only thing that is ringing in their head is total defect, total downtime. That the only thing that's ringing in their head is total downtime. Okay, so I'm going to just proceed. Now, to create our DAX measure, I'm staying on my defect quantity table, and I'm just going to do a new measure. And I'm going to call this new measure my month over month defect quantity trend icon. So we're trying to create that icon, okay? Trend icon, that is what I'm going to call this particular thing. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to use a variable. Variables in a VAR in Power BI are just some kind of a kind of DAX formula that you use to store other DAX formula that you can reference in your particular DAX formula. So I'm going to use variable, and I will do positive icon. So this thing for positive icon is actually a code you would use. I hope I remember the code. If not, I'll go and look at it. It's not, I don't need to cram it. I'll just try it, and if it works, this thing. So unit char function and the number for that icon, right? So you can see sometimes some people put in some icon on their report on their reports. Okay, so we're going to put unit char and 96. I think it's 9650 for the positive icon. I hope I'm correct. We would always look at it. Then for the negative icon is var negative icon. So I'm creating different DAX on other DAX, right? To stop, because I don't want to create it like, I can easily do positive icon equals to, I can create a DAX, a measure for that, and then I'll reference it in this formula, but I want to do everything at once, okay? So all these things, now let me tell you the thing. It's very, people feel like DAX is that, okay, how do you cram all the formulas? Here's the thing. If you understand what you're trying to achieve, you can go online to go and ask. For example, I can go to Google now and ask Google or ask ChatGPT that how do I do a trend icon, or write a DAX that will generate a trend icon in Power BI, and definitely it's going to give me the option. So I think it's unit, this one should be 9660, and then I'm just going to close that bracket. Okay, now I don't need to have a space between this because it's going to cause issues for me better. That's why it's throwing that error that I was seeing there. So you don't need to put a space. Once I put a space like that, it becomes a problem. Then I'm going to tell I'm going to tell Power BI what to do, right? And I'm going to just call this VR the choice. I'm just going to call this choice equals to. Now, the next thing I need to do is to write an if function, and I'm going to tell Power BI that if my defect quantity, that's my MOM growth defect quantity, is greater than 0, I want you to return positive icon, right? But if it is greater than if it's greater than this thing, I want you to return negative icon. That is basically what I want it to do. So if it is, so I'm going to use my if function. Okay, one thing I like about Power BI is when you start writing a function, it tells you what that function does. So if probably that's not even what you need, you can cancel it. So you can see, for example, this function is saying checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. It's similar to your case when in SQL. Okay, so the first thing you need to put, and one thing again, it gives you some kind of direction. Once it's showing blue like this, it means you need to write your logical test. And what is my logical test? My logical test is if my MOM growth defect quantity, right, is greater than 0, right? And I'll close bracket. I hope we are all following. Please follow, just keep watching at the screen and don't just wait, you'll practice later so you don't miss out on anything. It's greater than 0, sorry, comma. Okay, you can see now that if without pressing comma, it's still on my logical test, but by the time I press my comma, it has moved to result if true, right? So you have to put your result if true. So what result do I want you to return? I want you to return my positive icon. Now, because I've already written positive icon, that's why it's bringing positive icon for me. But if not, if I put under comma result if false, and my result if false is what? The negative icon. Negative icon. Now, I'm going to write another variable that sort of tells it what to display. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write var, and I'll call this one display equals to. So what I want to return is my choice, which is this variable I have here. So I want you to return this, right? And put a space. Now let me show you something so you understand why I'm writing this. If you look at my this versus last month, right? My this icon, that's my icon, and my value for the previous month. You will notice that something that is happening here is that it is calculating it is putting a space in between, right? It's returning the icon and the defect quantity. That is what is happening. So that's what we're trying to do. So I'm saying return my choice, which is return the icon, and then put a space. So to put a space, I'm going to use this quotation mark to indicate that I want to put a space. All right, I want to put a space. and then I want you to return my month over month. I think I'll just format from here. So, okay, let me, since I'm not formatting, I've not formatted my month over month growth in percentage. I'm going to just use format my, I don't know if I've done that, but if I've not done that, this would also work. Format, and I'll put it. So what do I want to do for my format? I want to format my month over month growth in percentage. So I want you to return my month over month growth defect quantity. How do I have this train and error? Okay. Oh, I didn't put and. I was wondering why it was train and error. Okay, so format my month over growth. So what I'm just doing is choice. That's my icon space. Format my month over growth defect quantity in percentage. So I'll just put 0.00 percentage here. So it will show it as percentage, and I would have to put this also in a quotation mark, using a quotation mark, and then I'll just close that bracket. Now, what I want it to return at the end is return display. Okay, somebody is saying they cannot see my screen. I'm trying to wonder why that is. Can every other person see my screen well? Is there anybody that cannot see my screen? Now I'm just going to click on enter. Now if I bring that icon, or what I just calculated now, which is this defect quantity trend icon, and I put it on a card visual. Where is my card visual? Good, beautiful. Now you can see that it is returning the value. Okay, what we just calculated. This is the DAX. This is the DAX we've just written, and I'm going to read the DAX. Okay. Now, please, if your screen is not clear, something you can do that will be helpful is increase the resolution. So go to your settings on YouTube. That is just the settings on this call, and try to increase the resolution. So now what we've just calculated is we've calculated positive, like we've written, this is a general this thing. Thankfully I got it. Look at, I was doubting myself. Now we got this positive icon, right? And we wrote out the negative icon, and then we also wrote out like the choice. So we are saying that if our month over month growth of defect quantity, right, that result, if it is greater than 0, I want you to return the positive icon. And the positive icon is this thing that you are seeing here, this upward looking icon. I would have gotten images. This upward looking icon. Okay, now when you see, when this thing is below, like it's pointing, when the arrow is pointing down, it is negative. That is how this thing works. Now, oh god, I'm trying to click on the DAX. It's not okay. Good. Now, so that's what we've tried to do here, right? Now, that's what we've tried to do here. The next thing we now did was, what do we want it to display? We wanted it to display our choice. And what is our choice? Our choice is this icon, right? That's that up icon. And also return what? Our month over month growth defect quantity, but formatted in percentage. Do you understand what this DAX is doing? That is what we've just written out now. Okay? Now, somebody is asking a question if what we're trying to achieve with the defect icon. We're going to get there very soon. But remember, I said this is the report we are trying to calculate. And the reason why you add things like this on your reports most times is to add context to your report. Okay? That is why you add this thing. Now, but this is not still a very great, like, it's good to show this, right? Another better way to also do this is to format this in such a way that it shows a particular color, like you know, there are generic colors that we all know, like when you see green, you know it's a good thing. When you see red, you know it's a bad thing, or there's problem happening there, right? So we are going to do that for this report. And how I'm going to do that is we are going to create another measure, and we'll perform a conditional formatting on this thing here. I hope everybody is following. Now, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to create another measure in this place, and I would do, oh, okay, I should put the card on focus mode. We're still writing this thing, so it might not be able to do that. Okay, now if you want to know what VAR and these things mean, VAR is a function in Power BI. Unit chart is a function in Power BI. You can see the best. You will learn everything in this class. So when you see me write something, right, it's now what I'm doing now are DAX that you would write in every, like if you're in an organization, for example, and you're writing complex DAX, these are functions. Some of the most popular functions you would use when writing DAX. So anything I mentioned is now left for you to. I like what somebody did on the WhatsApp community today and asked me, what the question she asked was, what do we call this kind of DAX? I want to read more about it. And I told her it's time intelligence, and it was just beautiful to see, because obviously you won't learn everything here, right? It's left for you to go and do your assignment. So what you just need to do is go and Google what VAR and unit, and you know that, okay, in Power BI these are functions that do this and do this. Okay, so we can just focus on the project. That's what I would advise. So if I mention something you don't know, it's a cue for you to go and learn that thing. Now let's do the next. So I mentioned something that we need to format this as a color. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a new measure that would say if my month over month growth quantity is greater than 0, I want you to return red, and if it's less than 0, I want you to return green. Who can tell me why I'm using a okay, if you listen to what I'm saying, well, let me just write it down so it's better to this. So I'm going to call this month over month defect quantity trend color. That's what I'm going to call this, defect quantity trend color. And then what I'm doing is, if my month over month growth defect quantity is greater than 0, people have watched football too much. That's why you're thinking VAR is. Please, it's not. Nobody's talking about referee here. We're talking about, people have watched football too much. Please focus on data analytics and leave football alone. They're collecting their money. If month over month growth defect quantity is greater than 0, I want you to return red color. So I will just write it red, color red, and I'll write it green. And then I'm going to close these brackets. Now, who can tell me why can anybody explain these DAX, or can anybody tell me why? Because now I'm saying if something is good, it's green, right? Something is bad, is red. And I'm saying if the month over month growth quantity is greater than 0, it should be red. And if it is not the other way, it should be green. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to format this, our visual, to that with that color, right? So now to do that, I just need to make sure this visual is selected, and then I'm going to go to my formats, right, on that particular call out value, right, which is this. If you go to your call out value and you go to colors and do FX, right? FX is what you do to conditional formatting. So call out value, and then here where is FX, and then I'm going to format this not based on rules but based on a field value. Now, what field value do I want to base it on? On that my trend color icon that I created. So which is, I created a DAX. Where did I create the measure? Let me go and check again. I don't even know what table. That's why sometimes it's good to use a table so that you'll not be looking for what you want. And that's why I don't know, maybe I was not on this thing. So I'll just look for where I created that this thing. Okay, it's actually here. I called it color. Oh, probably I didn't save it. I'd have to write that again. I think I didn't save it. I must have closed it without saving it. So I'm calling this my month over month defect quantity color. Let me call this trend color. So if month over month growth defect quantity, so if my month over month growth defect quantity is greater than 0, comma, I want it to be red. If not, I want it to be green. And then I close my brackets, okay? Excuse me. Great answers to the question. What defect is not a good thing. When defect is reducing, that is a good thing. Ah, people are very smart. I love people that listen. So we're going to format this card visual now. So I'll go ahead and click on FX, and I'm going to format this not based on rules, not based on gradients, but on field value. And the field I want to base this on is that color that I created now, which is this month over month defect quantity trend color. That's what I'm going to pick, and then I'm just going to click on OK. Boom, you can see what just happened. We have been able to change it to have that color. And something I'm going to do here is I'll just turn off this category value that I have here. Now I have this one here. I've been able to create this particular one, right? I can always reduce the size, but this is the icon I need for the other one. Now let's do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing for our same period last year. That's why year over year growth defect quantity. So what I'm just going to do is that's why I like DAX. You can use the same DAX, just change your metrics or change whatever the measures you have there. So I'm just going to copy the same thing. So I'll copy this thing, right? Control C. I'll do Control A and Control C, and then I'm going to come here and I'll do new measure. So I'm copying that defect the defend trend icon, and I'll paste it. Now instead of month over month, I'll change it to what? YOY. Okay, and then instead of this place where I have my choice, if month over month growth defect quantity, I'll change it to what? Year over year growth defect quantity. You can see the beauty of what we are doing. Like, it's now like very fast, like you're just copying and pasting, and now we are just doing enter. I don't need to come and start writing the same thing again. And if I bring that one to a card visual, let me say I copy and paste this one, and I remove this, and instead use my year over year different trend icon. What am I using? Oh, sorry, I didn't change the second one. So you have to change everything that has this thing. Good. And click on enter. Good. Now I've been able to do the one for the year over year, right? But this is still formatting based on this one. So we need to also format this so that it's on its own formatting. It's using year over year. So I will go to the one that has the trend icon, right? That's the trend color that we created. Also copy it, Control C, create a new measure that I'm going to change to year over year growth quantity. Okay, and I'll do Control V, and then I'm going to go ahead and put YOY, and then I'll change this one to year over year, and I'm going to put my year over year growth defect, and I'll click on enter. Now the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to now go ahead to my FX. So I'll go to call out value this time around. I will clean this conditional formatting and put another conditional formatting, or I can just click on the conditional formatting, come here and come and change the rules, right? Say for example, I do this, let me see, Control Z to go back to how it was before, and I just come here to click the FX there, and I can just change this for MOM defect quantity trend color, and I change it to my YOY defect quantity trend color, and I'll click on OK. So you always want to do that as well. Now, somebody said the arrow is pointing up and is showing red. That is why you need to listen in class, because we've been talking about this thing yesterday, right? We said that if, regardless of the fact that the numbers are increasing. The numbers are increasing means is a bad thing. You don't want defects. It's just like when you are saying increase in debt. If you are having increase in debt, that's a positive number, right? But it's a bad thing that people are dying. So it's going to be upward, but it's going to be a bad thing, which is red. But when it's downwards, when it's facing downwards, yes, it's possible that the growth icon for negative face downward, right? It's possible. Now, where is it possible? It's possible in the sense that you have you have a data that you are sort of like working on, maybe for how do I put this, for loss. Yeah, let me use profit and loss for example. If you are making a loss, for example, right, and it's going down, and you are making loss, and your this thing is showing like you made 20% less than last year, yes, your arrow will go down because it's less than last year, right? It will go down, but the thing is, it will be red. But if you are making if you are making profit, it will show like 100, right? And it's a good thing, so it will be green. But this one, there's an increase, obviously, but the increase is not a good thing. I don't know if I'm making my explanation clearly. If the trend is going up and somebody just explained it very well. If the trend is going up and it's bad, so red is the best to represent it, because the trend is going. I cannot put down because the trend is not going down. I don't know if you are understanding what I'm trying to explain. The trend is actually going up. We're having 4.25. If I add like minus 1.25 now, I'll put a down arrow, right? The icon will show down. That's what our DAX, you have to even also understand your DAX. What our DAX is doing is saying if it is greater than 0, it is a positive icon, but our color is being formatted that, but that positive icon means there is a problem. There's no increase. Imagine putting that decrease and you're now saying red. The company will ask you, you say there's a decrease in defects. Why do you say it's a problem now? That's what we want. I don't know if I'm making any sense, okay? So I really hope that you understand my explanation. Let's proceed. Now that we've been able to get this, I'm just going to put this somewhere else. So let me just format this to show Shego UI, because I want my fonts to be very, very similar. And I'm just going to format Painter here and paste it on this one. Good. So let me just drop all this. So this will be the basis for my first chart or my first visual. Straight to number 2, let's do that of downtime hours. So I think it's going to be faster this way if I'm focusing on one thing. So I'm going to go to my downtime measures, and the same thing I did for my defect quantity, I'm basically recreating the same thing, but I'm going to be changing the measure. So I'm going to be doing copying and pasting. So no need to come and start writing from afresh, okay? What's the time now? Let's take a 2 minutes break, please. Let's take a 2 minutes break, okay? So take a 2 minutes water break. You can stretch your legs, you can drink water or whatever you want to do. By 15:04 we'll continue. So 3:04 we're going to continue. So in the next 2 minutes, count 2 minutes from now, and we'll be back. Oh boy. Okay, I'm sure everybody is back by now. If you are not, start coming back to your seats so that we can continue the class. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, and if we look at our reports, the next thing we have as our visual is the downtime hours, right? So we're going to move to the downtime hours and do the same thing we did here. And like I said, I like very, very fast work. So we're going to be doing a lot of copying and pasting. So be hearing me say Control Z and Control C and Control V a lot of times. So I'm going to do Control C and Control V. And I'm just going to remove this. And the total downtime hours that we created, remember I said in manufacturing industry, they calculate their downtime in hours. The data we got yesterday came in minutes, but we had to convert it to hours, right? So that's why we are converting this, we converted it to hours, and that's what we're going to add on this visual. So this is our downtime, but it is still showing as like, because I copied and pasted this, right? I need to rename this. So I'm going to call this downtime as beautiful. Now that we have this in, that we've already calculated this, the next thing we are going to do, right? Now this one, you might not see anything yet, but we're going to be using a parameter to calculate this. Now remember I mentioned something when we started the class, right? I mentioned something about the fact that this organization, we're trying to save money for them, right? Reduce costs for them. So we want them to be able to come and see the trend as well, right? Like if we're making an assumption now that this organization is losing, or the downtime cost per hour, so they are losing $10 every hour there's a downtime, right? We are making an assumption that every hour there's a downtime, they are losing $10. So for us to actually do that, we're going to make use of we're going to create a parameter that we're going to sort of like use to show that, right? And okay, for me to do that, I'm just going to insert a parameter. So for me to insert a parameter, I'm just going to go to my modeling view, and then I'll create a new parameter. But the parameter I want to create is going to be a numeric range. Okay, so I'm just going to create a numeric range parameter. And this, what parameter does, it allows you to put in any number you want to put in, right? And I'm going to assume that the maximum amount of downtime that they would probably be losing is, or like the amount they'll be losing in an hour, is going to be $10, okay, per hour, $20 per hour, depending. But the reason why I'm putting this is because we don't know the exact amount, but we want to make it dynamic such that if they are not losing, if it's not $10 they are losing, they can also put in whatever figure it is, right? So I'm going to call this parameter my downtime cost. So instead of parameter, I'll just rename this to my downtime cost, and I'll leave it as O number, and I'll leave this like this. And on default, I want it to be 10, right? Because I'm assuming that they're losing $10 per hour, and I'm going to do create. Now, once I do that, it's going to add a slicer to this page because I left that on, right? Which is this, that is what he has created here, which is this downtime cost that you are seeing on this place, right? This downtime cost. So what I'm going to now do is I want to turn off this slider. You can leave it on, but I don't want to. So what this slider does is just, if you increase it, you can sort of increase the number without having to input. But I want to format this such that I'm not seeing that slicer. So I'll just go to my visual, okay? This place that I have this slider, I'll turn that off. So once I turn that off, I want to just move this a little bit on top. I would also turn off the title, but for now, I'm going to leave it so that when I start formatting, I know what this box was created, what this was created for. That's why I'm leaving this like this, right? So I have this downtime cost here. And the calculation for our downtime cost, we're going to also write a measure to create that. So we're going to be doing the same thing we did for others, and the calculation for our downtime cost is like the downtime hours multiplied by the downtime cost. That is what is going to give you that. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and create a new measure, and to do that I will also be creating a new measure table that is going to hold my downtime cost measures. So I'll go to my home tab and I'll do enter data, and then I'm going to just type downtime. I'll call this downtime cost, and I'm just going to click on load. We already know how I did this the first time, so I'm just doing this for the third time. Oh, I've created one before, have I? Oh, okay, this is the parameter I created actually. Okay, I could just do that here, but no, let me create this thing. Okay, that's why I have this downtime cost too. Okay, I would rename this so that I know it's a parameter table. So let me call this downtime cost parameter. Good, better. So this can be here. So now I'll start with the first thing, which is to calculate the downtime cost. And my downtime cost, I'm going to write a DAX. So I'll create a new measure. Let me rename this. So it's just downtime cost. Good. I'll create a new measure by selecting new measure. And then it's just going to be a calculation of my total downtime hours. So I'll call this downtime. Downtime cost per hour. So this is downtime cost per hour, which is going to be total downtime hours multiplied by, which I'm going to be using an asterisk as multiplied by my downtime cost. So multiplied by my downtime cost that is in my parameter, right? So downtime cost value. So what I just want to do, whatever value that is imputed in that parameter is going to do the calculation. Okay, somebody said they are confused on the parameter. So I don't know if you know what parameters are in Power BI, but you can use them to sort of generate dynamic, when you want to make your report sort of dynamic and stuff. So all you just need to do is go to your modeling view, right? And do a new parameter. And when you create a new parameter, what you want to do is select, this time around, what we want is a numeric range, right? You want to create a parameter such that you want somebody to come and impute a number, like a variable. So in that particular thing, this is used most times when you want to do top end. We're still going to use it again when we're doing our top end analysis, okay? And once you do create, and you check the box for add a slicer, it creates this visual for you. If you not do create, if you not do add a slicer, I won't create this thing. You just have to come and add a slicer by yourself, such that you can, once it creates this, you can always change this number that you have here to whatever number. I can change it to 6. I can change it. I'll show you what happens. Let me leave it at 0 that it is now. But here's what is going to happen. We're going to click on I've written the DAX calculation for my downtime cost. I want to hide this column so that Power BI can detect that this is a measure table. So I'll click on hide. And then I'm just going to copy and paste. We've not even finished the downtime hours before I move to the other one. Anyway, it's fine. We'll do everything together. So I'm going to just add instead of downtime hours now, what I want to call this one is my downtime cost or downtime impact. So but I'll just call this downtime cost. So I'll put this here. Now you can see that it's showing 0.00. Do you know why that is? Because on the downtime cost, what I have is 0. If I change this now to 10, it's going to multiply the downtime hours by 10, and that is what is going to show me in this place. Okay, and because it's money, right, it's supposed to be money, and we're assuming our data is a United States data, I'm going to just come to that downtime cost and put a currency in front, which is this dollar sign. So I'll do display values in currency. Beautiful. Now we have a dollar sign in front of this. Okay, let's continue. So we've been able to get our downtime hours, right? And our downtime cost. So I'm going to change this from downtime hours to downtime costs. So I'll remove the hours here and I'm going to put a cost. Now, the next thing I want to do is to calculate the month over month growth percentage. And so what we did here, I want to recreate it for this. So what I'm going to do is I'll just come here, right? I'll select this one and then go and copy the DAX there. Like I said, we want to do a lot of copy and paste. So I'll do Control A, Control C. And then I'm going to go to my downtime measures table. I will do new measure. And I'm going to change this from growth defect quantity to growth downtime hours. And I'll change the second one to downtime hours. And I'll click on enter. Oh, I need to change the name too. So instead of defect quantity, this should be downtime hours. I even called it defect quantity. Downtime hours. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so the next thing we are going to, no, total downtime hours is not cost. I don't understand your question. So I'm going to bring that on a card visual now. So I'll just do Control C and V, and then I would I'll delete what was there before. And I'm going to put a month over month downtime for my downtime. So good. And then the next thing I want to sort of do is to add that trend color icon, right? So let me go and copy the DAX formula as well. So I'll just come here and copy the color formula, which is this, Control A, Control C. I'll go to my downtime table, create a new measure, Please, are we following? Do you have questions? Is it too complex? Are you tired already? And then we're going to paste this here. And then the next thing is I'm going to change this from defect quantity to downtime hours. Okay, I need to rename it too. When you say why couldn't we use parameters for defects, I'm trying to understand what you mean by that. But no, now that we've calculated the month over month for downtime hours, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to my format and format it based on this. So I'll go to my call out value, click on the FX and change it from this to what I have here, which is the trend color here, and I'll click on OK. And the next thing I will do for the same thing for year over year, right? So I want to copy the trend icon first. So I'll do Control A, Control C, create a new measure. So all about this, once you can hack the first calculation, it becomes easy to translate it to other ones. So, and I'll replace this with downtime hours. And I'm replacing the second one as well. So downtime hours and doing, okay, I need to rename, always forgetting that. Okay. The next thing I want to do is, can everybody still hear me? If you can hear me, just let me know that you can still hear me. I think you can zoom in on your own screen because I can't zoom in on Power BI. So if you cannot see anything, just zoom in. I can only zoom the visual. I can't zoom the calculation. Okay? So please just zoom in from your own end if you cannot see my screen properly. Okay, I'll do the same thing for the trend icon or the trend color. So I'm just changing what was there before and I'm putting in downtime hours. And then I'll do a copy and paste. And I'm just going to change this from month over month and I'll put in the Y over year icon. And then I'm going to format this. I'll format this using the downtime, year over year downtime hours trend color. And I'm going to click on OK. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing for my downtime cost. So I'll calculate month over month, downtime cost previous year, and all those that we calculated for this thing. So what I'm just going to do is I'll come to this place and copy all the DAX I've written here. So I'll start copying from the first one. So I'll start copying from here. Let me copy this one, Control A, Control C. I'll go to my downtime cost, new measure. So just the same measures I've created, right? That is what I'm going to do. Somebody said that's a lot of cost for the company. Now, the thing is this is not a, we don't know where the data source is. It might have been manipulated, right? So maybe in real sense, it is not like this, right? So we're not saying that this is, I'm not assuming that this is real world, but these are the things happening in real world, right? So it might not be, it might not be this, and it's not every time that there are positives to a company that you see the company all. I think we always see a lot of, even all these big companies that you would hear that, oh, they lost 40 billion on this, they lost I think there was one report we could most recently where they lost a lot of money on loans. So these things are actually happening. So even if you are seeing very outrageous number, sometimes it might be correct. So it's the data that we're trusting. We're not trusting any other thing. So I'm just going to paste that, and I would change this from total defect quantity to downtime cost. Okay, what do I call it? Downtime cost. Okay, I call the downtime cost per hour. And I'm going to click, okay, I'll change the name. So I'll call these downtime costs same period last year. So downtime cost same period last year, and then I'll copy the second one. Okay, I can't copy this one yet. I have to calculate month over month first. Okay, let's calculate previous months for the downtime cost. So new measure, I'll paste that, and I'll change this to total downtime cost. Previous months, and then I'm going to change this to downtime cost per hour, and I'll click on enter. Now the next thing I want to do is I would calculate, now I can calculate the month over month growth. So be Control A. Okay, I don't even need to do this because, well, Control C, because I might basically write almost practically everything. And I'm going to call this month over month growth downtime costs. And what are we doing? We are dividing the downtime costs per hour divided by the previous month's value. Previous month's value. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to replicate everything that we've done in these other tables in this table. So the next thing I want to do here is to click on to do the year over year on, and for year over year I'll copy this, Control A, Control C, and come here to do new measure. And I'll replace everything that has to do with defect quantity with downtime costs. Okay. Please, if you don't understand what I'm doing, oh, let me know. But basically, it's what I've done before. I'm just recreating, right? I'm trying to recreate all those calculations. We're trying to get to how we got here, right? That's what we're trying to do. So I'll do the icon now. So I'll do Control C, create a new measure here, Control V, and then I want to change this to the downtime cost. And this one too. And I'm going to click on enter. Okay, I need to rename too, sorry. Okay, I'll do the same thing by copying the icon or the color rather. Control V. And I'm just going to change, okay, I've changed this to downtime costs, and I'll click on enter. So now I can bring that one on a card visual since I have my month over month. So I'll just do Control CV and so to calculate the downtime cost, what we just did is we created a parameter, right? And then we now multiplied that parameter we created by our downtime hours, such that because we made an assumption that the company was losing like $10 per hour, right? That was the assumption that we actually made here. So we now multiply downtime hours by the downtime cost value that we created. So I'm going to change this from this to the downtime cost month over month. Now the downtime cost trend and the downtime hours trend would always look the same because the downtime cost is dependent on the downtime hours, right? I hope everybody understands, because if there's downtime, the higher the downtime, also like obviously the higher the cost, right? That's what is going to happen here. So they are going to be obviously be the same number, but I'm going to also format the color value and change this from the downtime to then I'll do for my year over year icon. So let's start with the trend icon. Control V. So I'm going to change everything to downtime costs. And the same thing here, Control A, Control C, and I'll create a new measure, Control V, and I'm going to change this to downtime cost. And I'll click on enter. Let me know if you can hear me now. If you can hear me now, just drop a reaction. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change this one to. I'm going to change this one from. Okay, I've changed it to this, and I'll also change the formatting, right? From month over month to year over year, and this. And I'm going to click on OK. All right. So the next thing we're going to do here is we have been able to calculate all the KPIs we want to put on our reports. If you want to put total defect reports to sort of like count the number of defects that are being reported, right? You can also do that, and we already do them. We did a base measure for that yesterday, which is the total defects that we calculated, which is the count rows of all of our defects. Well, that is not what we're going to be. We're not going to be adding that to this, right? I just want to focus on what I have here. Now, the next set of measures I want to create is my trend analysis, and I'm following a process. When you create on your first page, if you are creating a multiple page report, even if you are not creating a multiple page report, you want to show important information. What do I mean? Instead of all that your plenty analysis that you want to pack, I know you have so many interesting things you want to tell us about your data, but if you are analyzing data for stakeholders or managers or CEOs, executives, those people don't have time, right? Most times if they are telling you that, oh, I only have 5 minutes to spare, or I only have 10 minutes to spare, and they want to see all those important numbers at a glance, right? Like they just want to come to the dashboard and look at, or maybe you are presenting it to them. They want to see, okay, are we making progress or we are not making progress? Okay, we are making progress, or are we making or where's the month that we are making progress the more? Okay, it's this month. Okay, what are our best selling products? Okay, is this. What are our worst selling products? Okay, is this. Those are the things that they are most likely interested in, right? So you want to always put all this kind of information on the front page of your dashboard. Now, in this particular, so whenever you finish doing your KPIs, I always recommend the next thing you want to show is a trend analysis. What do I mean by trend analysis? Like you want to visualize your data by trend, either by quarter, by month, by year, however you decide that you want to do. But in this case, we are going to be visualizing by month, but we're going to add a legend that shows for the current year and for the previous year. So, and for me to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a line visual. Now, the thing is, for this line visual I want to create, I also don't want to I don't want to do two line visual, so that I'm doing line visual to show the trend of defect quantity, another one to show defect quantity of downtime hours. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create let me just move all of this thing, Control A. I'm just going to move it upward since we are not doing formatting now. I just want to have all my visuals, so I'll create another thing here. Now we're going to have a create a visual, and we're going to create a parameter such that when the user comes into that dashboard and creates a and selects a visual. Can everybody hear me? Please, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. I want to be sure that everybody, okay, thank you very much to Lokbe. So we're going to create a DAX measure, we're going to create a measure, we're going to create a parameter rather, such that when a user comes to the dashboard or comes to the reports, they can be able to see downtime. Once they click on something, they can see defect quantity once they click on something. And let me explain what I mean before we go ahead and create that. If you look at this line chart here, right now, this line chart is showing the downtime hours. That is what it's showing. Now if I click on defect quantity, now I can see defect quantity on trend, and this particular thing you are seeing here is affecting all this visual here, like from here to all this. So once I click defect quantity, what I'm seeing in all these places, like from here to I'm seeing just defect quantity information. If I click downtime, it changes to just downtime hours. Maybe I should try to zoom in a little bit so that we can see what I mean. I will just reduce that zoom in a little bit more. Okay, beautiful. Now if you look at this now, right now what you are seeing, okay, I didn't even change this one, that's something I just realized. Okay, what you are seeing now is, you can see right now you're seeing downtime hours, right? If I change select defect quantity now, you're going to be seeing defect quantity. That's how this thing works. So let's pay attention to what you have on this side as well. That's this the worst performers. If I click on downtime hours, the numbers change to reflect just downtime hours. The numbers change to reflect just downtime hours, and if I click on this, the numbers change to reflect defect quantity. So that is what we are trying to do now. So I'm going to go back to my report, and please just if you cannot hear me, please try to refresh your browser, and if it's still the same thing, you can drop a message in the comment again, but I'm very sure every other person can hear me. So that's what we're trying to do now, and for us to do that, we're going to create a parameter, another parameter, but this time we're not creating a numerical range parameter. So I'll go to modeling view again, and I'll click on parameter, and I'm going to click on fields. Now select my total defect quantity, and then I'm going to select the total downtime. Those are the two things I want to have in that field, and I'm just going to call this parameter my overview parameter, because this is going to be on my front page, which I'm calling overview, right? So I'll just name the parameter overview, and I'll do create. Now I've created this parameter. I can always format this however I want it to look. I'll just leave it like this for the meantime. Okay, or maybe I can change that now. What I can just do is come and change the slicer. Maybe I don't want to use this slicer, I want to use this new slicer that is here. I'll click on this new slicer, and I'll format this how I want it. I'll go to my format visual. I don't just want to spend a lot of time on formatting. Let me leave it as it is. We'll do formatting later, because that's a special class on its own, and it's one of my favorite aspects of dashboarding actually. I don't like the calculations parts and all the modeling, all the hard parts. Although designing is hard as well, but it's fun. That's the part I like. Okay. Now let's create our line visual. Okay. So I'm going to bring in a line chart. Anytime I've seen people make this mistake, you want to visualize time series analysis. You want to do time series analysis. You are bringing pie charts. You are bringing bar charts. Why? When you want to visualize a time series analysis, anything that has to do with months, day, months, year, what you should be using is your line chart or your area chart. So I'm going to pick a line chart here. Okay. Now, once I bring in that line chart, what do I want to see? I want to see the total defect quantity or the total downtime hours by month. So I'm going to scroll down to my date table, and then I want to select my I want to select my month's name. And the next thing I'm going to do is I will go to that overview I just created, okay? This overview, and I'll select that parameter there. Okay, I realize something is not happening. What's the problem? What's the problem with my line chat? Is it because it's too small? What? I don't think that's the problem. Okay, I know what the problem is. My overview went to legend. Okay, I'm just going to drag and drop it here. Better, thank you. So now something I'm going to do for this my visual is I'm going to sort of format it so that it doesn't show like you can see my okay. I want to remove the legend. I don't want legend. I want it to be showing for just one, right? So I'm going to remove this legend that I have here. And I will always make sure that when I try to format, I will always make sure that one is selected. So I'll change my settings for these two. I'll go to format and I'm going to change my slicer settings and I will go to my selection and I would do single select such that every time there's always one thing selected here, right? So it always has to be one thing always has to be selected. And then on this visual, I'll format all this later. I don't want to bother about this now. And I'm going to put in a legend. Yeah, the legend I want is my year. So I want to see the result for, I don't just want to see all the months. So because we are trying to add context, right? So I'll go back to that date table and I'm going to put in my year on the legend. So I'll just check this one. Should show as a legend. Beautiful. Now, when it comes to formatting, I don't want to see, I want my user to focus on the current year. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this, but we'll come back to formatting this. So we need to actually format this, but we'll do that later because formatting is a different like episode on its own. But we've been able to do this particular chart. Now let's go to, we've been able to do almost at least half of that. Now let's go to a new page. I'm going to delete all these pages because I don't want to get confused. I think this was what we're creating when we're trying to sort of visualizing the measures we're creating. Okay, now that we have this select, I've deleted those ones. My page is clear enough. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create, what do I have on page one? My instructions, good. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to show the worst performers and like by different dimensions. So I'm going to be showing the worst performers by my like defect quantity and by also downtime, and I'll use that same metric, right? So I'm going to bring in a bar chart or I can make use of this visual here. It's actually one of the new visuals, but it's called multi-row card, right? So I can make use of this multi-row card. And what I'm going to do is I want to add the fields that I want to visualize. I'll go to my dimension table. So let's start with vendors because I want to see the suppliers. They would want to know the worst three. You can do worst five too, right? But I'm just going to focus on the worst three vendors. So I'm going to select vendor, and then I'm going to go to my overview metric. That's what I want to use because I want it to be able to be dynamic, and I'm going to select this one too. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to copy this thing so that it would also affect this page. So I'll just copy these DAX, Control C. Sorry, the slicer, Control V. I want to put it here so that I can know that what I'm doing is working. We would still format and do all those things, but we are doing, this is our analysis phase, right? So we'll still arrange we're trying to bring out all the visuals that are going to be on our dashboard. So now if I click on total defect quantity, I see total defect quantity. If I click on total downtime hours, I'll be able to see total downtime hours. So now I've seen this one is by vendor, right? So we can always put a title on this place such that if I go to my title now and I turn that on and I do by vendor, I'm going to also change this to Shego UI. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this so that it shows only the top three because I don't want to see everything. So I'm going to come here and I'll do basic filtering, top N, top three by what? By this overview. And I'm going to click on apply. So I'll just test it to be sure it's working, and yes, it is working. I'm not seeing my top three yet. Okay, did I apply? Top three vendors by overview. Why is it not showing? Because I'm still seeing everything. Okay, I'll probably use the defect quantity. I'm going to see it's supposed to, okay, because it's okay. Top three, apply, and if I click on this, it should work. Good. So I'm going to use the vendors with the most defect quantity now. That is what I'm doing now. So I'm just using the vendors with the most defect quantity, so such that it shows them the downtime caused by those particular vendors. So we want to see the vendor that is causing or that they're getting the most reports on, right? That are actually causing the most defect quantity. Then I'm going to do this, since I've done by vendor, I'm just going to Control C and V, and I'll do the same thing by category. So I'll do the same thing by category. So now instead of vendor, I'll remove vendor and I'm going to put category. And then I want to show the top three as well. So I'll just clear this one and I'm going to do top three here. top n, select 3, and I will move this from this to total defect quantity, and I will apply. And I'll also rename this. It's not by vendor, it's by category. Okay, so the next one, I will just do a Control C and Control V and sort of copy this and do another dimension. So this time around, I'm going to do by plant's location. So I'll just rename this to plants by plants, and I would delete this one. And I'm going to replace this from category, and I'll go to my plants and I'll replace that with plants location. And I'll also do a top 3 filtering. Good. So I've done by plants. I'll do one last one by material type or by the kind of defect. Okay, let me do by the kind of defect. So Control C and V. And then I'm going to change this from plants to, I'll remove this and I'll change it to defects. So I'll just put defects, also remove this one,